Hi everyone, let us continue with the class. In the previous class, we saw this up till page 129 till geographical changes. Today, let us see the political changes, okay, which took place during the rule of the Britishers, that 190 years or 200 years approximately, whatever you term it. Let's see what are the political changes that took place. Okay, these are very interesting if you try to understand. And before understanding, I'll give you a tip how to make things interesting for you. Whenever, not only in the context of this social or history or whatever, whenever you do anything, even when you sit for the purpose of study, or whenever you go to, even if while going to school, whatever purpose, where we're going for playing, you're going for hanging out with your friends, just remember one thing: ask a question called why to yourself. Why am I going to school? Why am I going with my friend? Why am I reading this? And the moment, and try to find out the answer of that particular word why. Okay, just asking is not at all is not enough. You need to also find out the answer, that why. The moment you are able to discover the answer of that why, you will get the taste of it, and you will develop an interest towards that particular thing. So political changes. Okay, now let us see why. Okay, this political changes took place. The British rule in India was first established under the EEIC. I don't know EEIC. What was that? You'll get this type of terminology. It can be in the form of objective, or what the CEIC stands for. Okay. One more thing, yeah. Before I proceed, just now I told to the previous class, so let me tell you as well. This as a class we are discussing, and what do you call the assignments, the homeworks that I'm allotting you, the textual questions, or be it of the exercise or whatever. Do not be under that false impression that since I'm giving you the textual questions, so exercise is not a part of it. It is excluded, it is not included, or you don't have to go through, you don't have to find out the answers, it is not required. No, I never say that. Or at times even I ask you sometimes to do this, what do you call the exercise that we have, those few question answers, or what do you call it, fill in the blanks and so on. Now again, that doesn't mean that your textual questions, I mean questions from the text, in between the text, okay, there will be, those are excluded, or you will get only questions from the exercise. No, just in simple term I'll tell you, be it from the text, be it from the exercise, the whole thing is included. All right, everything, which means everything, that's all. Okay, many of you may have, because I found some query that since I'm giving all, I'm going line by line, word by word, I'm giving you all the textual questions, so is exercise excluded? I didn't understand that. Who told you exercise is excluded? When did I say? Now if I ask you today to do this exercise, now does that mean that these chapters are excluded? I mean the textual, the insight questions which you call, those are excluded? No, this mentality, this tendency, okay, which class 8, this mentality tendency of only going through your exercise, uh, just after the text, teacher will give you those some notes, few notes, you will open your mouth, and I'll take that rice and put in your mouth, spoon feeding. Forget about that, you will not get it from me. What must be given, I'm giving you each and everything. I'm sharing the answers on a daily basis of the previous day's class. All right, so you have to go through everything, be it an exercise or textual, the whole chapter. Okay, later on you must not say, sir, this you didn't give me the answer, I didn't give you, you have to do. I have explained, right? Each and every word I explained. So don't be under that false impression that this is excluded or that is excluded. No, this is the reason that when you go to your, well, board examinations level, class 10, 12 and all, especially I find, especially from class 10 it starts, 10, 11, 12, and even 9 also. I find students in the examination hall, when you are being asked to write, yes, you sit down with so much of excitement, but I don't know what happens. Your pen doesn't move, it gets stuck in one place. And I hear very often discussing this students, when you come out of the examination hall, this question was out of the book, it was from a different, out of the book. It came from Jupiter, from a different planet. Alien came, alien brought it. Read the text, read the exercise, each and everything. That's all. Political changes. Yeah, the British rule in India was first established under the EEIC. However, after 1857, the British Crown, or you can say the British government, they took direct control of over India and ruled the country. Underline, when direct control, full country they took. No more indirectly that please give us some permission for trade, for business, like the way they entered. You remember? Previous class we have discussed in page 128, colonization of India, that during 1600, how this English East India Company, this particular person, who is that? Thomas Roe. He came and took permission only for the purpose of trade of his company officials from a Jahangir. It was only for trade. And later on, after 100 years, another ruler, Mughal ruler, who's this? Farooqi Shah. He granted much more important trading rights. But now, direct, no, forget about trading, whole control. There's a saying, in Assamese, there's a saying, okay, I don't remember the word exactly, but however, I remember this. The main theme, the main message that, if you don't control at first, if you don't set up a limit in the beginning itself, like especially in the case of students, I find many a times, I used to observe some of the students, that at times with some of the teachers you try to take advantages, not because that the teacher is called not so, teacher is not so strict, or teacher is unable to control, or classroom management, no, because the teacher loves you too much and you take things for granted too much. Same thing happened here. Britishers, they asked trading rights, we gave. They asked much more important trading rights, we gave. In 1857 they didn't ask, they took away our country on. So nice. I hope you're understanding what I'm telling you. Where am I? The second para, page 129. Another striking political development. I'm having a little bit of cough and cold. Where am I? Yeah. Another striking political development was the emergence of a coherent and organized opposition to British rule by people across the Indian subcontinent. All right. So another political change which took place during the British rule in India, there was a strong opposition, okay, which was emerging, which was growing, which was developing during those days when they were ruling, when the Britishers were ruling us, okay, and this opposition started to spread across our country. And I mean, during those days, it wasn't a country; it was a kind of we were just a British colony then. We the term, that nation, okay, or the tag, the label of nation, we got that 1947, $15 when we made ourselves independent from them. But so just for your understanding, I'm just using this terminology for country. Otherwise, it wasn't a country then. It was, you can say, the British India. You can say that. Initially, this opposition initially means at the beginning. At the beginning, this opposition came from the local zamindars, peasants, which means farmers, sepoys, soldiers, and tribal people. Subsequently, it became more organized, drawing people from different sections of the Indian society. The next paragraph. The other major political development during this period was the establishment of an administrative, legal, military, and political structure that formed the backbone of British rule in India. Alright, it's given very short, you'll get in detail in your higher classes. Very interesting. Understand properly. So, where am I? Yeah. At first, when this opposition started against the Britishers, against the British rule in India, so there were some few groups of people, groups, okay. In our society, we have got so many different groups of people. There were some few groups of people who first started opposing. That is, underline, page number 130, right on top left hand side. That is the local zamindars, peasants, sepoys, and tribal people. Okay, they were the first to oppose, and gradually, okay, so it so happened that this opposition, more and more people started joining it. The different sections of the society, the different groups of the society, and this opposition, or you can say this protest, became much more organized in a much more systematic way against the British rule. That was one political change. Another political change was during this period, that is during the British rule in India, These Britishers, they have established a kind of an administrative, a kind of a system which was, you can term as a proper administrative system or legal system. These are all the measures, the policies, okay, that introduce, or the changes that they brought, okay, administrative changes, legal changes or legal system, military changes, political structure, and how to govern and all. And in fact, all these things, this changes that they brought, this proved, or this served as a backbone for this British rule in India. It made, which means it made the British rule much more stronger in our country. Next, we have Indian nationalism. Let us start Indian nationalism. In this book, we shall frequently come across the term nationalism. Alright, before I go to the term nationalism, let me tell you what do you mean by nationalism. Okay. Now, see, in Hindi, in Hindi language, if I say nationalism, you'll be able to understand a much more better way. So let me be bilingual for this, which means, it's a called Desh Bhakti, patriotism, a love towards your country, right? So it's basically a feeling, a emotion, okay? So that's called nationalism. Now let us go. In this book, we shall frequently come across the term nationalism. Essentially, this term signifies love for the nation. See, I told you now, right? So same thing. Essentially, this term signifies love for the nation. In the context of a country under the rule of some other country, it reflects a strong desire to get independence from foreign rule. Underline, in the context of a country. So basically, as I told you, that nationalism means love for the country, love for your own country. But when we talk in terms of country, especially a country which is under the rule of another country, and in that sense, when we use the word nationalism, then that means, that specifically means a strong desire to get independence from the foreign rule. I hope you have underlined. Even I'm doing the same. It will be easier for me, right, to make questions for you. The revolt of 1857, as we shall read later, was the first great expression of Indian nationalism. Which was the first great expression of Indian nationalism? Revolt of 1857. Is it mentioned in detail? No, just the name. You try to do some R&D, some research and development, and try to gather information about more about this revolt of 1857, which will develop, an interest, a taste of yours towards this. Now, this revolt saw a number of provincial rulers of India, supported by their people as well as sepoys or Indian soldiers in the British army, rebel against the colonial rule. All right. So this revolt of 1857, when it started, as we have discussed in the previous class, right? Yeah, that India had so many princely states. India had so many, this what you call independent princely states and all, and also some dynasties and all. So when this revolt took place, all these provinces, okay, provinces simply means the different areas, the different region, okay, different, in simple term, if I say the different territory, all right. So all these provincial rulers, the rulers of different territories of our country, they they got a lot of support when they started this revolt against the Britishers. But a lot of support from whom? Who supported them? They got support from their own people, okay, and also from those soldiers who were, like deployed in this what you call British Army. They were called sepoys. These Britishers, they were so cunning. Yeah, what did they do? It was British soldier, British Army, but they took our people, the Indian people, and they forced our people, okay, to join their troop, their soldiers. Even though it was, they were Indian, but they were forcefully. Maybe they were kind of what is it called? They were threatened. Okay, they were threatened and all, and they had no other option. They had to join. But when this revolt started, even though these people, our people, who joined the British Army, but they supported us. Though the revolt was suppressed, it made the people living in different regions of India realize that if they stood united, it was possible to overthrow the British. Underline this. Though the revolt was suppressed, it made the people living in different regions of India realize that if they stood united, it was possible to overthrow the British. No matter, we got defeated in that particular revolt, revolt of 1857, but you know, there is a saying, that you may lose a particular competition or a particular game for that particular moment, but that does not mean that you did not win. There is something more beyond that. There is a lesson that you learn. What was the mistake? That why you were not able to reach the goal with or the target which you thought about it, and as a result, you can work in a much more better way, and so that in the next attempt when you do, you don't repeat the same mistake. Same thing goes with this. Same saying goes with this 1857 revolt. Yes, we were suppressed, we were defeated, but it also made our people realize that if we are united, if we stand together, we can overthrow the British rule within no time. Before I proceed, yeah, this line reminds me something. The greatest weapon that the Britishers had, because of which they were able to rule us for this 190 years or 200 years, is not that they were stronger than us, not at all. In fact, the number of Britishers that came to India, there's even the soldiers also, even when they were ruling, you can say, when they were ruling, when they were controlling us, the whole, British troops, the whole British group also, if you combine them together, they were not, or you can say they cannot outnumber us. We were more, okay, when we count in terms of numeric, but still they ruled us. Does that mean that they had all those sophisticated tools, weapons, advanced technology, No. But they had one big weapon which we did not have. We did not have, which we have now. The reason that why they could rule us is because we were not united then. All right, during those days, among us, and this was one of the greatest advantage of the Britishers, of us not being united. They took advantage of this and they tried to exploit us against one another. Okay, and so that they could in the name of religion, in the name of region, different areas, in the name of different what you call culture and so on, in the name of different what is it called, caste system and all, among us only they try to divide us. Divide and rule policy, you can say that, divide and rule policy. And this was the only weapon which they had, the biggest weapon. Because supposing if five of us are there and there is two Britishers, these two Britishers know very well that if we five go, we five Indian, even if they have guns, we don't have gun, we go bare hand, empty hand also, we can defeat them. Chalo. We may get two, three shots, two, three of them, they may die, but we will defeat them, no doubt. Alright? So the very first thing what did they do is that, because as they know there are two of them, we have five, they try to, indulge us against one another. So that when we fight with one another, we five of us, obviously among five, we ourselves will kill our own brothers and sisters, two, three of them. So supposing we say, even if two of them dies, okay, so we are left with only three, or if three of us die, we are left with only two, and they have to, now they can easily overpower us, right? Because they had some advanced tools as well as compared to us, like guns and all. But that was not the thing. The first strategy was to divide us, to make us, against one another. That is one of the things. So with this line, I just remembered that. Now come back again. Something for your knowledge I shared with you. Yeah, where am I? Yes. So the concept of India as a nation and Indians as a people, that is a united country and not just a collection of smaller provinces and local identities, it started shaping from then, from after the revolt of 1857. That no, we have to be a nation instead of we. This is your kingdom, this is my kingdom. We are from. Same goes with today's society as well. All right, we must always stand for one another. We must always stand in some. If supposedly many a times you see your friend got hurt or fell down somewhere, he got hurt, let him do. Why shall I go and help him? Why shall I go and help him today? He fell down, he got hurt. Who knows? God forbids, tomorrow it can be you. And then what if he says the same thing? And let him fall down, let him be there. So I hope you're understanding. So this revolt brought, that, feeling that yes, we, instead of fighting among ourselves, instead of, living in different provinces, this is your area, this is my area. So we have to make one area, that is one country, one India. And also we, the people of, we must be united together. Instead of living in these small small areas, we must live in a small big large area, India, a nation. Next para. In a later chapter of this book, we shall read in detail about Indian nationalism and how it paved the way for the growth of the freedom struggle, eventually leading to our independence from British. All right. So, as of now, for the topic Indian nationalism, only this one para is mentioned. You, as the book says, that you will get in the later chapter of this book. But however, I'll tell you, Indian nationalism is such a huge topic. You forget about one para or one chapter, even a volume. There is a book called, which is the book itself is called Indian nationalism, in India. The whole, everything bits and bytes. If you come across anything, you may get some articles. I'm not sure. If you surf in the net, it's so interesting. You get to know each and every bits and byte details of our country. All right, next we have the economic changes. The most striking economic change during the British period came in the land revenue system. Yes, land revenue system, taxes, revenue tax. Britishers, before I proceed, let me tell you one more thing. They came to our country, they captured us, they were living in our land, they were forcing us, the Indian people, to be a part of their soldier. And if they indulge in any fight, they will force our men, hey, you are a part of British Army, go and fight, and then die, get the bullet shots. Yeah, during this, what do you call, First World War, this is what happened. I shall not go in detail. We'll get in the next class, 10 or 9, 11. We'll get there. Now let me just tell you this. What do you call, rail revenue system? These Britishers, what was their source of income? It's not that they came out here. Yes, they came for the trading purpose, but later on, when they established their control, they didn't do any sort of trading. They just relaxed. Then how did they earn wealth? Our people, they were living in our land. They were making us work for them, and they were also taking money from us. What? Tax. The different in the name of different taxes. You will see land revenue taxes. Then what? Zamindari system. There's also called this. I forgot it. Chokidari taxes. So many taxes. Yes, Chokidari taxes, that they are protecting us. They are saving us. They are safety. Living in our country, like, it's very interesting. Somebody coming to your house, all right? It's your house, staying in your house, and asking you, pay me the money. Why? Because I'm protecting you from the enemy. But whereas he's staying in your house, you are feeding him, you're giving him clothes, everything is provided by you, and also money. Give me tax. Britishers. And these were different ways through which, Britishers extracted money from us. And out of this different way, one of the way was this land revenue system. Let's see. Land revenue system is a lengthy topic. Yeah, page number 130. If I just explain one paragraph, you will again lose the interest. All right. I won't start this land revenue system or the so-called economic changes. I will start this in the next class. Let me mark up to this, page number 130. That is Indian nationalism. Okay, so whatever has been explained, please go through the text and listen to this discussion properly. If you listen to my discussion, I can assure that much, that yes, it will help you in your better understanding of the text. Okay, so see you in the next class. Study well.